Hey, Christie here from loomingcraftyfiberarts. Today I want to show you how to do the Twisted Twig Stitch in the round. This is going to be a 5-row repeat with a cast on that I highly suggest you do, and I'll explain that when we start the tutorial in a minute. This was done a swatch in a roving yarn, which is a 1-ply. It's not plied. And you can see the stitch, but it's not as defined as the one I did in the 4-weight. You can see the twist more and the laciness. Now this is not part of the stitch. This is right here, from here down. You can see the twist of what I call the twig better here. So depending on what kind of yarn you use will depend on how defined the stitch is. Now you can see it here. It's kind of harder to see because the camera angle, but you can see the twig part here, how it twists. So roving yarn works good too. Any yarn is going to look good. I think this will look great for a brim or a completed hat or cowl or whatever else you want to use it for the round. Just remember it has these open areas, these lacy areas. Now I think I mentioned your loom does need to be divisible by 4. And the best way I found that I think would be to mark your loom to help you with this stitch would be the way I've done it here. I have used a band and went around 4 pegs. I'm trying to get my camera angle right here. Around 4 pegs, and then I skipped 4 pegs. And then I put a band around 4 pegs, and I skipped 4 pegs. And I did that all the way around the loom so that I would have this visual of working 4 pegs at a time. And there's going to be a couple of rows that are going to be working 4 pegs sets, and it's going to make more sense to you when we get started. Okay, so for the cast on, we're going to make a slip knot, and however you make a slip knot is fine. And we're going to put it on peg 1. Now immediately after we put it on, remember this is the cast on, immediately after we put it on peg 1, we're going to purl it. Sorry about that, that was my phone. Okay, now the second peg we're going to E-wrap, and we're going to purl like we did the first one. And we're going to do that as our cast on all the way around the loom. Now there will be a flat panel a little later if I didn't mention that before. I'm working on a flat panel for this one and one of my other stitches I recently uploaded. Trying to get my angle right so I can get all the loom in the camera here. And then we'll E-wrap around and purl again. And I'm going to do this for 8 pegs so I can show you enough of the stitch tutorial that you'll know what's going on. I'm sorry I'm a little fumbly here. I'm sitting at a different angle today. I'm always trying new angles to see what works best. Okay. So now we've got our cast on done, and we're going to pretend that we've done this all the way around the loom. And we're going to come back to the front, and we will start row 1. Row 1 is going to be a stitch that you're going to recognize if you follow me much, that I do often. And that is wrap 2 as 1, knit them off, bring your working yarn in between those 2 pegs that you just wrapped and knit off, and purl the second peg. So you're wrapping 2 as 1, you're knitting those 2, and then purling the second peg. So let's do that again. We're coming from this set of 2 here we just worked, wrapped around the back of the next set, back around the front. So I explain it as a big old E-wrap. 2 is 1, knit, knit, yarn in front, in between, and purl the second peg. So let's do the rest of those just the same way. And that is row 1. And at the end of this, I will have a review and a tip at the end for working in the cast on piece here, right here. So you might want to stay tuned for that, or come back later and watch it. Okay, so we're going to go back around, and we're going back to our first peg. And so row 2, we're going to push all our pegs down, loops down our pegs, I mean. And we're going to do a figure 8 stitch, just like this. We're going to do a figure 8 stitch 4 times. I'm going to knit it off. Okay, this is a flat figure 8 stitch. There is a double knit figure 8, but it's different from the flat knit. So for the figure 8 stitch, you're going around one peg to the front, in between, around the back, and back around the front again. And you're making that figure 8. That's all you're doing. So this is number 2, number 3, and number 4. Okay. Then we're going to go to our next 2 pegs. We're working in a set of 4 here. Then you're going to go to your next 2 pegs, and you're going to do a knit 1, which is an E-wrap knit stitch, and you're going to knit it off, and then a purl. Okay, and I will recap when I'm done. And then we're going to our next set of 4. We'll do the same thing we did with this set of 4. We're going to do 4 figure 8s and knit them off. 1, 2, and push them down each time, so you'll have room for the next set. 3, 4, excuse me. And then we're going to knit 1, which is the E-wrap knit stitch, and purl. And yes, make sure you flip over your knit stitch. And so you're going to do this set of 4 all the way around till you get back to peg 1. So now we're at peg 1. We're at row 3. We'll be working in sets of 4 again. This time we're going to knit the first peg, E-wrap knit stitch, then purl the second one, okay, and then these 2 pegs, we're going to purl this one over twice. So to do a purl over, you're going to scoop up from the bottom of your existing loop, pull your top loop down, flip it back over your peg, and then snug it up. But don't snug it up too tight. We'll do it again. Remember I said purl over twice. Scoop up from the bottom, pull your loop down, flip it over, snug it up. Okay? And it's going to look kind of wonky, but you can move it around. It's not going to make any difference. And then the last peg in your 4 peg set, you're going to E-wrap it. And then you're immediately going to come back around and purl it, just like you did with the cast on. Okay? So that's what you do with this set of 4. Your next set of 4, now you understand why marking them in sets of 4 is so important. It really helps you visualize what you're doing in each set. Okay, we're going to do like we did in this set. We're going to knit the first one, E-wrap knit stitch, excuse me, then purl, Then we're going to purl this one over twice. Purl over 1, purl over 2, and then this one, in our last set of 4, we're going to E-wrap, bring our yarn around, and immediately purl, just like we did in our cast on. Okay? And then you'll do that in sets of 4 all the way around the loom. We're going to pretend we have that row finished. Then we're on row 4. Row 4 is going to be easy. It's all purl overs. So we're just going to do purl overs for every peg till we get back to peg 1. Okay, almost done. 2 more pegs. And you'll do this all the way around the loom for row 4. Remember I said there was a 5-row repeat. We're at row 5. Row 5 is going to be like row 1. We're going to wrap 2, knit them off, and purl the second peg. Wrap 2 as 1, knit them off, purl second peg. Okay, that's it. That is the Twisted Twig Stitch. And so we'll pretend we've done that all the way around the loom. We'll come back to peg 1 and we'll start all over again with row 1, which is another wrap 2, knit them off, purl the second peg. Okay, so now we're going to do our recap and tips, or review and tips. Okay, so for the review and tips, remember for the cast on, we put our slip knot on peg 1, and then we instantly come back around and purled it. Then for all the pegs after that till we get back to peg 1, we E-wrapped and purled at the same time. E-wrap, pull your yarn around and purl. You'll do that for every peg. Then for row 1, we wrap 2 as 1, as I explained, a big E-wrap, knit them off, and then purl that second peg. We'll do that all the way around the loom. Row 2, and this is where marking your pegs in 4s comes in handy. Row 2, we're going to figure 8 2 pegs 4 times and knit off each time you figure 8. So we'll figure 8 like this and knit them off. Then do another, push it down, then do another. We're going to do that 4 times on this first set of 2. On our second set of 2 and the 4 that we've marked off, we're going to do a knit 1, purl 1, and knit meaning the E-wrap knit stitch, knit it off, and then purl. And you'll just complete that sequence of those 4 pegs all the way around the loom till you get back to peg 1. Row 3, we will knit the first peg, purl the second peg. The third peg in our 4 peg sequence, we will purl over twice. The last peg you will E-wrap and purl immediately, just like you did in the cast on. You'll do that all the way around the loom in 4 peg sequence. Row 4, purl over all pegs. Row 5, wrap 2 as 1, knit off, purl the second peg. So that is a Twisted Twig Stitch in the round. Now I told you I would show you how to fix, let me get my needle, where the cast on you have a little bit of a little knot there, and it needs to be, I didn't bring my yarn threader in here, so it's got a pretty big eye in it. Maybe I can get it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So you see this edge right here. This is my tip. You see it's kind of sticking up above the rest. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit here so we can get around the back side. Okay. So this is sticking out right here, and it needs to lay down a little better so it can be part of the stitch. You see I've laid it down across this stitch right here. I'm just laying it down across that stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in through some of these stitches here and pull it down just like that. And that way it'll blend in. And then I'll just keep working in a stitch or two down here where it won't show. You could do this with a crochet hook too, whatever's most comfortable for you. And now, see, it blends in. And I just come back up somewhere. And go back down. You don't want it to work loose. And then I just clip it after I was satisfied with the way it looked. So that's how I work that in. So it'll blend in with the rest of the stitches on the cast on. Okay? Okay. That is how I suggest doing the Twisted Twig Stitch. Have fun with it. If you make something with it, let me know. If you have any questions about it, let me know.